So the truth of the world of Shingeki no Kyojin, Attack on Titan, was finally revealed. It's been years upon years of build-up for this moment. And I think many anime-onlys are just gonna be in a state of just disbelief. Like, the ending of last episode caught everybody by surprise. But I think this episode will truly just break the horse's back. Everybody is just going to be in a state of shock to find out what the real story of Attack on Titan is really about. And just what the Titans really are, to all the Titans we saw at the beginning of the story throughout the journey of Attack on Titan and who they are, to just seeing more info on what, Bert, Reiner, and Annie's characters really are. There's just so much that this episode reveals that it's going to take a while for everyone to really process. And I think even the manga readers are still trying to take time to process what just happened in this episode, or in this part of the series. Now, just to be completely straight up, I thought that this episode might have covered everything that I have personally read from the manga, but I was wrong. Apparently, the beginning of the next episode will officially conclude everything I know, and I will become an anime only. So, yeah, I am looking forward to seeing some stuff I have yet to see. I'm pretty freaking excited for the next episode of Attack on Titan. But leaving it there for now, though, let's talk about just what we found out about the Titans in the wall, to the whole objective. So, the whole reason now why humans are attacking another civilization, is attacking our characters in the wall, is because on their land, on a very small island, we found out, they have a lot of fossil fuel. It sounds a lot like how this world works, our world. There is a lot of disputes and fights that happen because of black gold, oil, fossil fuel. It is something that is very common. It is something that's happened in our history. And so seeing something like this revealed makes perfect sense. It is something that really fits in with why a civilization would attack our characters. They want to further their technology, their advancement. And automatically, the nation they already know is pretty much demons in their eyes, so it's okay to attack them. So there's a lot of layers to this story. It gets really real. Like, it feels like real life at a moment because of just that reveal to fossil fuels being needed. But it's not just that, though. We gotta look at what our characters have been fighting since the very beginning. The Titans. It has always been a series, at least at the beginning, about our characters facing Titans. The Survey Corps was always about going after Titans, bringing them down, for they can take back the wall and take back the world, for one day they don't have to live behind walls. That is what our characters wanted to accomplish. Come to find out, it wasn't actually the Titans that was keeping our characters in, but it was actually the Titans keeping the enemies out. That's what's truly impressive about all of this. What really just, I think, catches everybody by surprise is that all of the Titans that have been taken out one by one throughout this story is actually civilians that are a part of our main characters' group. They're fellow civilians, just turned against them. So they have never really been fighting their main enemy, which is this civilization that has taken complete control over the world and turned, the people within the walls into basically demons. They never been fighting them, the actual enemy. They've been just fighting themselves since the very beginning. It hasn't just been about like when Season 2 came around in Season 3, when it came to more of human versus human. It's always been human versus human. The Titans were always humans and always individuals that were a part of, let's say, Aaron's civilization, but just turned against them. So they were never fighting any soldier, really, that was actually from the nation, the enemy nation. Even Bert, Annie, and Reiner are not necessarily soldiers from that nation. They were just brainwashed kids that just had a really horrible, horrible upbringing that just broke them in a way to where they worked for them. But even then, Eren fighting, let's say, the Armor Titan, Colossal Titan, the Female Titan, that is still technically their fellow civilians. They're people that should work with them, or normally would. So it's just crazy. The reveals just, I think, is going to blow everybody's minds, because it puts in perspective now how sad Bert, Reiner, and Annie's characters are, and how broken they had to become just to go into a foreign land that is technically your people, and then have to eradicate all of them just to be able to get fossil fuel for the country that is just using you and constantly shoving you down in society. The amount of brainwashing is ridiculous. But it doesn't just stop at that, though. Let's look at everything. Let's look at just the history of the Titans and how it even came about. So it's not just the fact that we found out how real this got in terms of fossil fuels, we also found out there is some form of magic, like demon magic or whatever, that is actually a part of this series. Now, it's not officially confirmed, but it might as well be, because, Titan shifting is definitely not something normal. So, apparently, a long time ago, like 1,800 years ago, I think that's the correct amount of time. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments below. But basically, a long time ago, okay? A very, very long time ago, before the world was as we know it at this point, or what we thought we knew it, you had this original Titan, Ymir, that died and then eventually split into 9 different Titans. And these Titans became the Titan shifters that we know. For instance, the Armor Titan, the Female Titan, the Colossal Titan, to Eren's Titan, to also the Beast Titan. We've already met 5 Titans, and then we also met that Mule Titan, which was, walking around, so that's 6 Titans. And then you have Ymir as well with her Titan, so, we've already met 7 Titans, technically, when you think about it. So, overall, it's crazy to think that we have all of these Titans that were split from one individual, and it's all from this one race of people. And they are the ones that are just constantly been fighting each other now, thanks to just circumstances. But the story goes, though, is that when the Titan shifters came about, they just completely suppressed a certain group of people. That it was basically a pro-Titan world. It's to where these individuals had a good life, while anyone that wasn't a part of their group, basically, if you weren't a part of them, then you were an enemy, and you were shoved down in society. And so eventually it drove individuals, which was the group that did what they did to our cast of characters, to just eventually turn against the Titans, gain 7 out of the 9 Titan shifting powers to be able to rebel and then eventually change the world for their own. Now, it's also revealed from Grisha's side is that the Titans, or Ymir and all that, their destiny isn't actually as dark as they thought. For instance, from the brainwashing, is that their origin story is actually a lot more humble. Apparently, in the past, the Titans actually worked with all of humanity, and they were trying to make a better world. They were help building civilization. However, Grisha even states himself, though, that he can't fully read it. He just believes in it, which, once again, this goes along with just how the mentality is of both sides, is that you cannot believe both sides because of what information was given to us within this episode. You cannot believe either. And let's look at the reasons why. The reason why we can't believe the first history lesson we got with how the 9 Titans came about, to how eventually, we found out that they were evil, causing a lot of problems, and eventually 7 powers were taken, and then eventually, the king ran off to the island and then built a wall or whatever. We can't believe that story because of just what those groups of people are doing to Eren's civilization. You cannot follow that history lesson, because it's just what they're doing is clearly wrong, and they're just sending out their own propaganda to make it look like they're A-okay, like what they're doing is fine, which that is what countries do. Send out propaganda to make it look like everything they're doing is completely just, while the enemy country is just a devil that needs to be put down. And the same can be said for what Grisha did. Grisha, he was basically trying to say, my people, we are good people, and, the people that are constantly, suppressing us, pushing us down, they are the enemy. They lied to us. They're feeding us false information. So both sides are fundamentally wrong in terms of just what the history is about. There's probably a lot more there that we don't even realize, that has yet to be revealed, which myself, I don't even know, because, I'm now pretty much an anime only. But that's the point there, is that you cannot believe either side of the story. Now, anyways, taking a step back from that, though, let's talk about Grisha's character and what he went through and just what is happening on the mainland. So, the people that were unfortunate enough to not be taken by the King Fritz and eventually brought over to the island, the people that were, unfortunate to be left behind, they have been put into, concentration camps. They've been put in camps to where they're not really full-on citizens. They don't have equal rights in society. They are just lower-class citizens that cannot really do much. They probably do not have the capabilities to move up in society, to ever get rich. They don't have that option available to them whatsoever, which is very reminiscent to what happened with Levi. You remember Levi's story and how he, as an individual, was someone that was casted into this, cavern, and these groups of people normally could never move out of there. They couldn't get out of there just because of how it worked. They were segregated and pushed down as individuals. So it's very reminiscent of that, and it shows once again that when it comes to just human nature or society, neither is really different. It just really comes about to what side you're really on. In this case, that's what's happening here. Just what side are you really on? But regardless, though, Grisha's mainland fellow people, his family on the mainland, they were repressed, pushed down. And they obviously had to go through so much brainwashing just to be able to function in society. And you could see from a brief little moment within the episode that Grisha's father is just not really, you wouldn't say he's a bad dude or even a bad father, because of the circumstances of what society has done to him has forced him to be like that. And even though Grisha hated his father, didn't like the man, you can't necessarily hate the father either, because at the end of the day, what the father said to Grisha made perfect sense. He's like, look, Grisha, these walls are thin, and at the end of the day, do you want us all to end up in paradise, wind up as mindless titans and all that to see us all go to? Don't you think, your sister's death is good enough? Should we continue this and just have us all die meaningless deaths? It makes sense why the father would act like that. In his own way, he was fighting. He knew he couldn't defeat them. He'll never be able to change their social standing in society. So he's like, let's just live with what we have. Let's deal with what we have and just let's try to have humble lives. And yes, he was sad that his daughter died, but there was just nothing he could do. There was nothing he could do. And so he accepted it. That's just how the world really is. And that is why Grisha started to hate the world and realized how cruel or broken the world was, because it wasn't really his father's fault. It's just how the world forced him to be able to save his own family. And also thinking about what happened to the sister too, it's something that's very reminiscent of what has happened in our society, what has happened in real life, at least in the world wars. It is definitely reminiscent of some things that especially happened to the sister of Grisha and how she died. It's a cruel fate. It's a very cruel fate. No girl her age definitely deserves that. No one really deserves that. And she was just trying to go outside of this area, and she got eaten alive by dogs, which is just horrific to think about. Which I think really goes to show, once again, some of the things about the character, though, that did it. The officer, when he talks to us as the viewer, but also Grisha, and why he did what he did to the girl. He did it because the world needs cruelty. It allows you to come face to face with just how, in a split second, lights out. Which makes sense, because if there's something that I think that society might have forgotten in this day and age, and it's very true, is that we no longer really have to fight as much for our survival as we used to in the past. If you go back, let's say a couple hundred years ago, you had it to where the world was a very different place. You had it to where it wasn't really that easy to be established, to be able to have the luxuries we have today. Like, every day we get up and we get on the internet or get on our phones or be able to drive to work through a car, etc., we take for granted how much society has really changed and how there really isn't much danger as much anymore. And that's the thing he wanted to say, is that because of peaceful times, it makes you forget. It makes you forget what it means to live, or just what it means to fight for your life. And that's kind of what he was talking about, is that everybody forgot about what it meant to fight for your life, what it meant to constantly be forced to face with death. And peaceful times make you just forget about life and death, or the meaning of it, and how you should really cherish it. So, the dude's cruel, obviously. He's not a good dude, but his thought process makes sense, what he was trying to say. And I just really like how meta that was. It was a very meta moment, because it just lets us see into the heart of just how some of these individuals, a part of their community, view things, but also why people in general do horrific things, is probably just to see where their humanity really is at. And that's what he was pretty much trying to see, is like where he stood and when it came to his humanity. Now, by the way, let's talk about the Smiling Titan, or the Titans in general. Come to find out, Grisha's first wife was the Smiling Titan that ended Aaron's mother, which is probably one of the cruelest fates that could potentially ever happen. It's sad because Aaron's, like, stepmother, or just Grisha's, like, wife, went after his new wife and ruined his child's life. It's a really cruel twist of fate. And seeing just how Aaron realized that, you gotta imagine from his perspective how messed up it is to realize just, like, who really ended your mom. I mean, it really isn't the Titan's fault. In reality, it wasn't the Titan's fault for why your mom died. It was actually the group on the mainland. So that's the crazy part about all of this. Why, this is really gonna change the story a lot, because now we know who the real enemy is. But yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. There's a lot to this episode, a lot of reveals, and I think it's going to take a lot of time for everybody to really dissect it and figure out what is truly going on. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.